Well, new children's book tackles some tough topics and also about the sharing of beauty of connections.
Well, here to tell us more about this is Dr. Resmaa Menakem and T. Mychael Rambo. My Grandmother's Hand is already a best-selling book about racial healing for adults. Why did you guys decide to do this book together?
Well, you know, when Resmaa contacted me about this idea, having written My Grandmother's Hands, the New York Times bestseller, he recognized that many people in the community had consulted and reached out to him saying, you know, how do we make this accessible to other earlier learners and people who very much would value, appreciate, and the experience of understanding how the initial story could be brought out to a larger community and give reason for people to understand how important it is to talk about these topics.
And so what is the story about?
So the story is primarily about a lot of grandmothers and how grandmothers bring healing to their grandchildren. And we really, the most important part of this book is that people can get better. And that hands matter, and that touch matters, and that showing that there's tenderness matters. And so what we tried to do with this is really make it accessible to children, but also make it accessible to their caregivers, right? And so a large part of the book is also music. So there's a downloadable album actually in the book where people can actually go to the computer, download the music, and what me and T. Mychael talk about is getting parents to at least spend a week or 2 weeks with the book, listening to the music and reading the book themselves, because the music stirs things about their own childhood and about their own pieces. So when they're reading it to their children, other things start to begin to happen. And so that's an important
Those
part.
memories kind of
That's
pop
right.
up.
Exactly.
That's right.
It is a journey to those connections that you were referring to earlier in your introduction, that the book asks the reader, the listener, to experience something that reminds them of that which has given them pause and cause to see how valuable our lives are in the world we live in.
Yeah, and as someone who grew up with his grandmother very close, we have a very close relationship. I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, what was your grandmother's name?
Mary Lou.
Right.
Mima is what I call her.
See, one of the things we did in the book is we took names like that within the African diaspora, and we used those all the way through it, because those are the connections that we're trying to stir in people, right? That connection, that glue matters.
Abuelita, the Portuguese word for grandmother, the Nigerian. It's incredible. But you also want this as a teaching tool.
Right.
Right. You know, it's interesting you bring up the different names, and I think, I know that our interest was to recognize the fact that African diasporic people, black and brown bodies, didn't happen to inhabit the world and the globe and the languages that we speak by accident. It was because of the enslavement and those who enslaved, and the languages that those enslavers took ours from, erased those languages, and put on us these other languages, thereby meaning that people who left and were found in Brazil spoke Portuguese from the Portuguese enslavers, you know, all across the globe. And so we really introduced gently the fact that we are who we are because we didn't come with just empty hands. We came with full minds, and we took on those languages.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining us, and make sure people get out and get this book. It's very important to make sure you do this as a learning tool. It's about racial healing, and it's also about family.
That's right. That's right. We appreciate y'all, man.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you
For
both.
having us.
We appreciate you.